Welcome to the Business Spotlight podcast. My name is Kay Cote, and I am your host for today's episode. Today, I have Kevin Carriere, CEO of Powertron Global, with me, and we're going to be learning about his business, his journey to business ownership, best practices that he's learned along the way, as well as some challenges that he maybe has faced to give you that inside look to what it's like to own and operate a business. If this is your first time on our channel, be sure to like and subscribe to get notified when we drop episodes like this. Welcome, Kevin. So great to meet you. Thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you, Kate. Nice to meet you.
Yes, before we dive into all things business, I'd love to learn a little bit about you. So feel free to share a bit about yourself.
Sure. I spent, I grew up in Louisiana. I moved to Texas probably about 15 years ago. I had started a business there and sort of post-Katrina, hurricane type stuff. We were in sustainability, and that region was, consumed with getting back on its feet. And we needed to be in a place where we could operate and do business. We chose Austin. So I have moved my family here, and I ended up moving probably eight or nine other families from around the country that we were working with. And so we call Austin home. We love it here. And we thought it was a really good place for us to operate centrally, where we could get to the Dallas-Fort Worth area, Houston, San Antonio. But now, certainly we operate globally. And that's it. So I like to love the entrepreneur lifestyle, and we started Powertron Global from scratch. Quite a journey. Love to talk about it, and all the way through where we are now. But it certainly is an adventure and a lot to learn. Right?
Yeah, so thanks for sharing about yourself. Excited to dive into the adventure as,
Yeah,
as
that's
us
good.
business owners always tend to have. Yeah, so tell me about the company and like what was the idea behind it? Like what was it, like an aha moment or something you'd been kind of thinking about for a while? How did you get started?
Well, probably like most people that venture down entrepreneurship or business ownership, I I have a finance degree. I was working in the finance industry. I found myself in pharmaceuticals after that. And I ended up working for you know, uh, an executive that frankly I thought should be working for me, right? I just didn't feel like there was the right leadership to challenge me in what I wanted to do or help me grow. And I was friends with the CEO of that company, and so I just approached him about wanting to do my own thing, and he supported me and offered to be a mentor to me if I was going to go down my own path of doing my own thing. So I went down that path. We ended up opening up some retail businesses, and that's certainly a different world that I've ever been involved in. And we opened up a chain of men's hair salons, because barbershops were not a thing that were giving style to the customers. And we felt like it was just an idea. Hey, what I would love to go to a place like this. So we opened one and grew it. And then when Hurricane Katrina came, it sort of wiped out some of our stores. We lost everything. We were flooded out. We lost all of our money. We got down to about $6,000 to our names. We decided that we were going to leave the area and go down the path we are now. But I met some people that were starting the company that I now own, and in that business, right, had a men's upscale salon. You meet a lot of business owners, and as a young guy at the time, so I'm 55, I was in my 30s. Um, as a young guy at the time, um, I was identified by other entrepreneurs like, oh, there's a young guy doing his own thing, and they would mentor me and they would bring me along. It was really fun. And so I learned of this business that we're in now is Powertron, and I started to help network them to other business, and I ended up being one of the more productive people bringing business to that business. Um, so when I needed something else to do after we lost everything due to being a hurricane, um, I ended up working with them more closely, made a fair amount of money selling with them and doing that stuff. And I ended up taking all of my profits from that effort and bought the company.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's the story, right? It was we ended up um, that company got in a little bit of a bind. We had capital to then I took commissions and injected it back into that business. And my partner and I, the joke is we did a hostile takeover with no hostility, right? So we acquired a majority that way. We ended up buying that person out, and we've grown it. So we've been at it about 15 years, and we've got it to the point where it is now, which is pretty exciting.
That is incredible, especially like thinking about all that you went through. That must have been just like devastating when you lost all of those other like your men's salons, and then having this as something to pour that energy into, and then ultimately purchasing that. That's an incredible story. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I'm sure many entrepreneurs will tell you it could be a book, right?
Could be a book.
It was I'll tell you a really good story. So my partner and I got down to when the salons happened, it was really hard to find employees, and we did not want to let them go.
Mhm.
Um, so we were using all of our resources to keep them employed, so that when we could get back online and open up again, we would have employees to go to market with or stay in market. But it ended up draining us, and we couldn't do that because the build out and the recovery took much longer than we had hoped. So we got down to about, like I said, $6,000 between us for everything. That's all we had, right? Um, and we decided to take a chance on a quick marketing opportunity to join an industry standards networking group, and it cost $5,000. And we just said, we have to do it. We have to try. And I didn't want to do it, but we ended up making that. It was a new network marketing group that set up called the Mobile Marketing Association of US. It was where you could text message and get to people, and it was early. It was cool back in the day, and so we did. We joined against my better judgment, and in 2 days we got a call back from that group, and they said, "Oh, you're the first members," and we were like, "Oh my gosh," we were hoping. And they said, "But we have an event in Dallas that we need representation for the group. And they're in New York City, can you possibly get to Dallas and do a presentation for our group?" And there's a big group of American Airlines and Dell and large companies in Dallas, in and around Texas and Dallas, that were going to be part of this. What could you do with mobile marketing? And so I said, okay, fine. I didn't have any money. I didn't have enough money to get a hotel. I slept in my car on the way there. I got up early to go there. I slept in Shreveport in my car. I made it there, put on my suit. I did a presentation there, met American Airlines there, and ended up signing a really nice contract within 3 days to do all of their flight status notification for um, for flights that were like, hey, we have empty seats, and they would text out, you want to go here, go there, and that sustained us, right? Just by I don't just I don't know how we pull that off. But then that allowed us to we took we took that contract and that revenue, and then we added it to my commissions to then buy this company. And we brought all the employees over, and we used that contract to pay everyone. And then we eventually phased out of that business and just into this one. So it was we have a couple of those stories where it's as hard as it gets, right? It's as hard as it gets.
Wow, that could definitely be a book, and what a story. And now it just shows too, like you invested in yourself. That's like a golden nugget, I think, for entrepreneurs who are watching this is, you invested that, like you said, you had $6,000 and you put
Yeah.
five of it into something, and you weren't sure, but it ended up working out. So yeah, I kind of want to dive into now. So you acquired Powertron Global. Now, can you tell me about Powertron Global? Like, What is the company about and who's your client base?
So yeah, so Powertron focuses on a specific niche in the market, and it's in climate. It started off in just climate control. So what most people don't know is that, like, when we run our air conditioning systems or refrigeration systems, or we're cooling anything, some heating systems, but mostly cooling, they lose capacity, they lose efficiency even normally, and it causes the systems to run longer, to use more energy. They wear out faster than they're predicted to. They have to be replaced sooner. Causes a capital expense, and the industry, the HVAC industry, does not really focus on it.
Hmm.
And most clients don't even know how much it impacts their business, because what happens is, as the systems age and run harder, their power bills creep up. Nothing that's eye-opening, but nonetheless, it creeps up. And the people that we worked with and then ended up buying the company from had some proprietary technologies to overcome those deficiencies. One was a nanotechnology um, that you use inside these systems. And as we got into the market, we realized how big this problem was, and subsequently the opportunity to overcome that problem. So the way it stands now is that about every climate control system in the market is going to degrade about 20 to 30%. And most power bills are about 50-50 climate control and then lighting and plug load and what have you. Normally, like, controlling that atmosphere inside of a building is normally 50% of the cost.
Hmm.
So if you're degrading 25% of half your bill, 10 to 12% of your power bill is complete waste. And that may not be a big deal when your power bill is $200, but it's a big deal when your power bill is 100,000 a month, 200,000 a month, 300,000 a month. So we not only started to solve that problem, as we got to larger and larger clients, we had to get more and more sophisticated with our engineering. So we bought out an engineering firm and brought them in-house. We started to learn other things that affect that efficiency and that expense that we could mitigate. So we added sophisticated engineering, and then we realized that we have a view of the market that the industry did not have of itself. Coming in as an outsider. So in our world, there's the manufacturers that make the equipment, there's the architects and engineers that design buildings, and there's the people that run them, right? And that owner occupy or facility management, and then there are people that service the equipment. And those verticals are very defined. They're established markets. People know how to make money in their respective segment. But the only way we could make money is if we came in and we understood the relationship between those segments and saw the gaps. So we call it a gap strategy, and we found that out. And then so as we learned about more and more opportunities, we developed more and more products and services and engineering to fill those gaps. So now, once we realized that our engineers have a different perspective on the opportunity, mainly because we were looking, um, we realized that we can see the market in a way it does not see itself.
Hmm.
So we said, wow, we have to scale this. So then we said we need to commit this to software. We need all of our new engineers coming in to have the full complement of all of our experience and what we've learned. So we committed that to software. And then after we got our software platform, we started to look for the types of meters and the types of hardware that can gather the information we wanted. And it exists, but it didn't exist. It was all fragmented. So we would gather data on this meter and that meter and that meter, and then we'd have to compile it. So we said, wow, there really is a need to make our own hardware where all the information can come into one piece of hardware. So then we got into the hardware side, and now we make proprietary hardware. Um, so to date, on the climate control, we call this our core offering, working in climate control systems. So we have nanotechnology, we have hardware, software, and proprietary engineering, and we go out and do these types of services for that. So our largest customer to date is Citibank. We have
Mm.
we have worked in over 9,000 sites for Citibank in 32 countries.
Wow. Okay.
We've worked with the Department of Defense. We work in a lot of data centers. So for example, the data centers that run Wall Street, we do all the work there. We worked in AT&T Stadium and the large AT&T Stadium for all the Texas listeners. Those types of applications are some of the most extreme climate control you could ever do. For
Mhm.
example, you have to run, like if you're going to cool down AT&T Stadium, that's a 2-day process just to
Mm.
remove all the heat. And then you're going to open the doors and let all that cold air out while 100,000 people rush in with body heat. And then you have to overcome that event. I don't know the exact figures, or I don't have probably the authority to disclose the exact figures, but you're talking about cooling that for one event, it's a six-figure weekend to cool a place like that. So when you operate in those conditions, it gets very exciting. You get some industry credibility, and as a result of some of those relationships, we did a lot of work with like what we call mission critical stuff, right? Hospitals, data centers, and whatever. So right now we're working with companies like AT&T. We are in the process of a rollout of 52,000 cell tower huts around the country. So every cell tower hut um, there's a base, and it has, basically it's a mini data center. So it has all the equipment in it that runs the network. It has to have backup batteries, generators, a lot of internally generated heat in a very small footprint, maybe the size of an office, but it's out in the middle of nowhere. And it
Mhm.
has to be air conditioned because you can't let the equipment get too hot. Sometimes it has to be air conditioned with snow on the ground, right?
Yeah.
So they have two mid-sized systems to run it for redundancy, and there's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of those. So we tested with them, got certified to do that. We're starting in California, rolling that out now. That's going to be a nationwide install. And then those 52,000 hubs report to 4,000 data centers in the US. So now they have us working in the data centers, right? We've
Mhm.
done similar testings with some of the other competitors to AT&T. We have those tests, and we're working there too. We're working with the likes of, Circle K and these people that have multi-state, multi-site portfolios that are very hard to manage.
Mhm.
Um, and we're getting into some government stuff. We just got asked to work with the U.S. Defense Department
Mhm.
on to work inside. They have a lot of problems with HVAC and climate control and mold. So if you don't condition the space properly, it can become a mold environment that's unhealthy. So they're always conscious of the health of the in housing and barracks and stuff like that. We're doing that, and
Mhm.
like I said, we also got invited to deploy to build systems just for the Defense Department. And then so now we've moved into well, since we do work in data centers, we got into what's called immersion cooling, right?
Mhm.
So data centers, you're going to obviously cool the air inside the data centers to keep the equipment cool. But some of the equipment it's so powerful and it gives off so much heat, you're trying to cool the actual equipment. And one of the ways they do it is called liquid cooling, um, where you can actually submerge these servers in a fluid, and then you have the flow of the fluid going through the computers, capturing the heat, and then we have to cool that fluid. So it's a natural extension of what we're doing. It's where a lot of AI data center uh, cooling is going to go to. And so we're being progressive in being out front of what's going on in data centers. Um, and we have the opportunity to work with some of the consultants to NVIDIA and Microsoft in the developing of those systems. Our experience in climate control is unique, and it's given us a path in that emerging market. So we're going down that path. And
Mhm.
then we also got into and sort of co-developed a waste to energy program where we can take about 60% of what would go to a landfill, convert it into a fuel that burns as clean or a little cleaner than natural gas, and we can generate energy from waste rather than having it go to the landfill. So we're doing that in California right now.
Hmm.
and we're looking at a national rollout of that. So that's the full complement of our portfolio is our core offering, which is the climate control stuff. And now we get
Hmm.
into immersion and sort of data center specific, and then we're moving into clean energy.
Wow, that is incredible. It sounds like you're like just doing some incredible portfolio work. And I'd love to understand your team. Like, how many current team members do you have? And what's your company culture like?
So that's really that's a great question. So we have always my core team is myself, my business partner, who was a software guy that worked with a company called Ariba, which a big procurement software company. Um, and our goal was to be decidedly non-corporate. That was our term. Hey, we are not corporate. And what we wanted to do was develop a culture that we wanted to work in, right? I can work for anyone that I respect and I can grow. I have no problem with working under someone or for someone, but I really have a disdain for working for people that don't motivate me or I can't learn from, right? It's like weakness cannot manage strength in anywhere in any organization. So we purposely, we actively hire the right people first and then then we figure out what we're going to do with them. Um, so we started out where everyone had a say in everything that we did. It was very collaborative in the beginning, where we really basically thought all of us know more than one of us. And we fostered an environment where everyone could participate. And that worked really good to get some people who were tired of working, felt like they had value in large organizations, but were not allowed to share it.
Mhm.
And we're always good on flex space. We don't give times. We don't tell people their vacation policies. We let people. I want people that I don't have to manage, micromanage, and
Mhm.
we allow people to sort of be themselves. Now we hold people accountable when, we, hey, do your job. Like to me, it doesn't matter if you're a software person and you're gonna write software for us and you work better from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., 1 a.m., I mean 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. As long as it's done in time, I don't care, get your work done, right?
Mhm.
Um, so that's the environment that we've created was very sort of post-COVID, work from home, manage your own schedule. We've been doing that for a long time. And we're now moving into a role where so we are about 15 people right now. It was very much a niche, like I call it a hitman team, very specific people for the role. And we're now going through a large transition. So we're going through a $250 million raise right now.
Mhm.
Um,
Okay.
and most of it's for projects that we're going to be building. We're going to be getting into constructing our own data center projects, so that we can highlight what we do inside those data centers. We're doing some waste to energy projects. They're very expensive when it's equipment. So we're doing that. And we're going to be growing in double digit growth in the next 3 or 4 months. We're interviewing people. We're hiring. We just got acquired more space. We just put deposit down on 7 acre plot not far from us where we develop our own campus, and we're going through a culture change. So from an entrepreneur standpoint, I'm having to take people that were very entrepreneurial, bring them into our environment so we be creative and develop our company. And now we're having to put process in place that they may perceive limits them, right? So like information has to flow a certain way. So the concept is what got us here won't get us where we're going, right? So
Mhm.
now we're becoming a mid-sized organization, on the way to becoming a big organization. So we do have the group we're working with for our raise is will likely be helping us go public in the next 2 years. That's a goal for us, and we see the path. Um, but while we implement process, we still want to hire people that um, are motivated by autonomy and independence, and then accountability. Um,
Mhm.
we value um, the willingness to work with people, empathetic based people who have the ability to make it not all about themselves.
Mhm.
And then we are extremely open um, to allowing them to give us ideas as to how things could be better or more efficient. So one of the things that I think is a failure of a lot of management teams that grow through what we're going through now is that the upper management is detached from what's going on at the street or where the rubber meets the road at the customer level. And
Mm-hmm.
I understand that, meaning what I'm going through now with meeting with investors and meeting with business development people and seeing the bigger picture of where we're going. It's easy to get distracted from what's going on at the customer level.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's a real failure of management. I see it in a lot of companies where people that are interacting with the customers come to upper management with ideas and they get shot down, right? And then and bad decisions are met. So we're going to try to proactively keep our feet on where the customer is, what they need, what they're saying, where they want to go, try to exceed their expectations on a regular basis, right? That's a challenge, but it's a fun time for us right now.
Wow, that's incredible. And yeah, thank you for touching on the challenges too. And how are you now going about like creating those systems that you're like as you're transitioning into doubling in your growth? What are some of the tactics you're using to create those systems?
Well, so there's certainly a lot of resources on companies that have gone through these steps, right? There's a lot of, and I'm sure you hear this from a lot of your audience. Being an entrepreneur, if you don't continuously self-reflect and understand where you are, you may miss the signals. And so there's a lot of self-reflection going on. I'm having to delegate a lot of things that I was responsible for inside here. I have all the experience because you're a one-man show for a long time. Um, and then you have to bring people in that have the experience of where you're trying to go. So what we did is we ended up hiring some executives that were operating in large companies that always had an entrepreneurial desire, but not necessarily the risk tolerance to do it themselves. So I'm looking for that trait. I need entrepreneur, problem-solving, creative person that didn't have enough risk to go do their own business, but then bring them into us and saying, hey, you have the process we need to employ and I need you to come in and help me see with new eyes where we need to go with our process. So we have a team that we're meeting with on a daily basis. We're in the middle of our close right now. Our revenue, first funds, we've been self financed the whole time.
Hmm.
Um, we have, you know, we have very, very little debt. We only took a little bit of debt to grow recently, but we financed everything ourselves. And now we're going into, the full, big raise time. So we have to, we're going to change very fast and move very fast. So we've been meeting about all the things that'll happen day one when the close happens, and that'll probably be next week. So
Hmm.
we're moving into updating employee handbooks and new benefits programs and on office furniture and our new stuff. And how's that going to look like? And how's the workflow going to happen? And what are we doing? How are we going to manufacture more of our hardware and software? Because now we're going to be adding salespeople on a regular basis and a formal sales training program because we did our own sales forever. So it's just all of it's hitting at once. It's a lot of sleepless nights, but it's very exciting. It's very exciting. And it's so to answer your question, I think it's a bit of a bridge. I think you say, how do I stay true to what got us here? But bringing in people that have the experience that we trust, right? That's a big part of it. People that we know and trust uh, that can see where we were, where we came from, because it could be a bit of a, why did you do it that way? Well, you have to do it this way in the beginning. If you can't be flexible and move and change direction as a startup, um, then you'll never get to a place that you need to make a process out of, right? It's the old, you have to move like a speedboat, not a cruise ship. And people that are working in large organizations don't see change that fast because it's hard. It's more people, more bodies, it's more communication. It's just very difficult to create change in a large organization. So I'll give you a good example, which is fascinating to me. So we have some really, really good engineers that work with us. And we've gotten into a culture where when we're in meetings, they have learned to not only explain what's going on so that we educate our whole group. This is what we're doing, so we all become pseudo engineers. Um, and they're very redundant in what they say. And so now we don't need them to do that, but they're in the habit of that. So I have new people come in and say, "Hey, we can't waste time talking about all these things. Um, like, I don't know why you guys do that." I was like, "Well, we had to do that. We let them go outside of engineering to train everybody so we can understand what the customers need. And now we just need engineers to talk engineering and get to the point where we don't have to waste time. So we're having to go and tell them, okay, we don't need you to talk as much. We don't need to do that as much. I don't need you to help me in marketing anymore. We're going to keep that on. So we're putting people in silos, and it's a little bit of an adjustment, but it's necessary. Right?
Oh, definitely. I've been just taking some notes as you're going through your journey. Yes, I think that's huge, especially uh there's a word I like to use for those folks you mentioned. You want to hire entrepreneurs. So there are those
Yeah,
internal folks that have
exactly.
mindset. Yes, like absolutely. So this has been such a great conversation. Again, I could probably talk to you for a long time on just where you're at in business. But I'd love to dive into a fun part of the Q&A. It's called our rapid fire Q&A, where I
Sure.
ask just 4 questions and you answer very top of mind. So are you ready for
Okay.
some rapid fire?
Let's do it.
All right. Question number one is, what is the key to success for you?
Um, I would say it is the ability to handle negative information without having an emotional reaction.
That's a huge one. I love that. That's the first time anyone's ever said that on the show, and I really resonate with that. That's
Uh,
important.
I had a person tell me one time, "Hey, you're going to go down your own path, and where you used to rely on management or consulting or people above you in the organization, when you are your own entrepreneur, the only person that's going to understand you is the person that looks at you when you brush your teeth." Right? It's a very it's a very individual journey. You're by yourself. You're out on an island. So you have to be able to handle all the negative, and you can't let that emotionally shake you, right? Because it gets scary.
Oh, 100%. That is so true. Question number three is, or question number two.
Two.
Great. Number two, I'm getting ahead of myself, is what is a piece of advice you have for other business owners?
Um, I would say I have a favorite quote that says that ships are safe at harbor, but that's not what ships are made for, right? It's really a risk tolerance exercise, and it's not always born in people. So um, be ready to accept more risk than than you planned on,
Mhm.
and be don't be discouraged with your success in the short term, but don't be limited in your long-term thinking. So what you can accomplish, and we oftentimes um, we over expect what we can accomplish in the short term,
Mhm.
because there's setbacks, and then we might quit. But if you can wait to see what you can do in 5 years, you could really, exceed any of your wildest expectations, right? So it's patience.
That's a good one too. Question number three is, it could be a book, a podcast, an article, anything that you've taken in most recently.
Most recently, yes. So it's a book called Radical Responsibility. Um, it's based on the journey of Navy SEALs, where everyone in the organization takes full responsibility for everything that they're doing. So um, it doesn't matter if someone works under you or is managed by you, and they do something that you had no idea about it, you take ownership to it because you didn't communicate to them what their responsibilities were. So um, if we all ultimately own all of the responsibility, then we mitigate the chance that we don't learn from our failures.
100%. I just added that one to my list. That sounds like a great book. And the fourth question is, if you could wave a magic wand and overnight improve one aspect of your business, what would it be?
Um, that's a good one. Let me see. One aspect of my business. I would say the probably I would overcome the transition of going from being a startup to being a larger company. That's it's mainly because that's what I'm going through right now. But I think it's very difficult to look back at everything that got you to the point we find, oh, we're successful because we did A, B, C, and D, and to look back at those things and say, if we continue to do that, we will fail. And so we're having to have a radical change mentally in every aspect of our business so that we can stay ahead of the changes we need to make to have the growth we want to have.
100%. Well, thank you for sharing those four rapid fire questions. Before we get to our final question of the day, how can folks connect with you and your business online?
So yeah, we're at powertronglobal.com. Powertron global.com. Everything is there that we need. We're certainly located in Austin area in Cedar Park, and that's the best way to get us. Where everything that you need is there at Powertron Global.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kevin, for our final question today. What is most inspiring to you today?
Um, I think resilience. And I see it in my team who did not necessarily come to us to know they were going to have to endure and challenge themselves and stick to it. And so right now they're getting to see the benefits of that resilience, right? Entrepreneurship extends well beyond your work. It goes into your house, it goes into your home. Your spouses are affected by it, your children are affected by the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. And so if you can stay resilient and meet your goals, it makes a little sense to why you did it and gives you some benefit to the sticking to it.
100%. Well, Kevin, thank you so much for that inspiring answer to that inspired me for the day. And thank you so
Oh,
much for
thank you.
being a guest on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.